Welcome, everyone, to a brand new show on my YouTube channel called Fellowship Chat. Hopefully, you will see why it is named that in a few moments. But today we have our very first guest for this new show. We have Brightlife here, who is on the right. So, hello?
Hello. How's it going, man?
Okay,
Sorry,
there
I
you
had a little
are.
echo. That was my bad.
Oh, that's fine. So I have a few different things going on. It's I accidentally completely deleted all my OBS stuff, so I had to rework all that from scratch and get this new setup. So one of the important things with this show is that I want viewer feedback, what you all think of it, what you think of the setup, and all that sort of stuff. So as we get started here, today's show is all about LOTRO's new player experience, which is where Brightlife is the special. He has that specialty with being a relatively new player / returning, and also the Before the Shadow mini expansion, which may or may not tie into the new player experience. So one of the things with this show is that at first I was envisioning it as kind of a podcast style discussion show, but to me that can be kind of boring, to be honest. So I thought having some gameplay or just something in the game going on with this setup would be helpful. So we'll have that. I also have all of this ready, if I can find it. If we talk about things, maybe even watch videos before the Shadow trailer, do plan to eventually get to that and just general browsing the web. So have all this stuff set up. Y'all can let me know what you think of it, and I will get back to the game here. Unfortunately, there's no cat in the cat cam, but I got that actually working as well.
There's no cat?
No, they are off making noise.
Guys,
in the
I'm gonna
background.
have to go. I can't do this without the cat. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. That's just kidding. Sorry, little Twitch thing real quick. I'm sorry. Sunny Potato, who's actually another YouTuber as well, just raided with a party of 6. Sunny, thank you so much for the raid. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Sorry, gotta make sure I do that. It's really kind.
That's exciting, and that actually reminds me, other than Brightlife just being here, he is actually streaming this on Twitch, so I did want to thank you for restreaming it and getting that whole other audience, because I obviously do not stream on Twitch. I do appreciate that.
We should get him to stream around Twitch, you guys. I'm telling you, it'd be fun. I'm just kidding.
Okay, so as far as what we're doing in game, we are going to arch it. I still have to make my way there because I am a high elf burglar, which is one of the new race class combinations. And what are you playing, Brightlife?
We're gonna do captain today.
Captain.
Yeah, but chat voted captain. But we're rocking the brand new. I don't know if you've. Of course, you've seen it because you made a video on it. But the new. I love the new cosmetics from the fan bundles that are out there right now. They look so good.
Oh, that is good to hear, because I actually do not have those, and that is one of the topics we have to talk about, why I do not have those, even though I might have those very soon.
Dude, that's great. So you didn't get the whole bundle thing, or you didn't get one of those yet?
I technically have not, but I will be.
Oh, I gotcha. Very cool.
We'll get
man.
into the details on that. I'm being very vague about it right now, but we'll get into the details on that soon. I'm just going to equip a random mount so I can travel a little bit faster and get caught up to you.
All good. I am. You want me to invite you to the fellowship here?
Probably be helpful. Yes.
Cool. What's your name in the game?
It's LOUHEGLAR.
LOUHE?
Yes.
And then what?
GLAR.
Nice.
I realize it's a very weird name, but it's Louis High Elf Burglar all combined.
LOUHEGLAR.
Yep.
Huh. It's having a hard time finding you. I'm Beard Bright. If you want to invite me, I'll put it in your chat.
You are on Arkenstone, right?
I hope so. That would be awkward if we tried to meet each other, but we're just out in the middle of nowhere. Oh man. Actually, this is cool. Apook just said, and I know we'll talk about this soon. Is he said, I don't have an understanding of the lore behind Before the Shadow. And so that's a whole can of worms, right? There he is.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. And Salmon Fire, who is Apukji, how did you
Yeah.
say that name?
Apuk.
Apuk. Okay,
APUK.
yeah, we'll go with the short version, Apuk. That is Salmon Fire in my chat, who just became a channel member actually.
Hey, that's
So I
so cool,
appreciate
man.
that.
I don't know what YouTube feels about this, but all of my chat is saying that you should Twitch stream. They're like get him
Oh,
over on
man.
Twitch, man. Bring you over to the
Technically, I
dark side.
could nowadays because they allow, I don't think multi-streaming at the same time, but they allow you to actually stream on other platforms. Is that correct?
Yeah, you can now, which is weird. I know, but you still can't multi-stream, which feels like an interesting thing. I think the reason that Twitch did that is because they just took away the what's it called? There was a 70-30 partner split for like high-end partners, and they took that away and everybody's like, "Yay!" But I think that they did that so that when they went down to 50-50, nobody would like sue them. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Maybe.
Okay, so I'm just getting all these quests here, but I guess to go ahead and start off with the topics.
Yeah.
What do you think of the new race and class combinations?
Yeah, dude, I was excited to find out about them, and it was one of the funny things for me that I initially was kind of and you lead the way. I'll pick up all the questions, just follow you. So I was initially interested in some of these, like the dwarf captain. I was very interested in. I was interested in like some things like I think that one that I was excited for was like the human rune keeper. I think was coming in, right? Wasn't it? Wasn't it the human rune keeper?
Yep, that was another one.
Yeah, I was initially a little bit not disappointed, but just kind of like trying to understand where the Hobbit lore master fit into the lore, because I'm a big lore guy. And so I remember just being a little bit like, is that good lore? But I think that people kind of pointed out Bilbo, who could be in that space. And then I had a couple of people in my chat. It wasn't a lot of people, but they just said, like I've always wanted to. And for me, like they're like role playing players. They really wanted to play with these characters, and I just went at that point. I went, you know what? It probably matters more to them than it does to me, And so I like totally don't mind it. And it seemed like it brought a lot of people back to the game, which was really cool. I really appreciated that.
Yeah, it's something
How
exciting.
about you?
Yeah, so from my perspective, I am a big fan of just having more options. So
Right.
I am all for them opening things up. There is, of course, I think LOTRO is a little bit special in its lore. Like, you have a lot of passionate people about the lore and things being lore
100%.
appropriate versus not in the game. So, yeah, I think from a gameplay perspective, I'm a big fan of it. But some people have questioned the lore.
Yeah.
To me, the biggest one actually is either Hobbit Champion, that one just always seemed weird to me, or the Man Runekeeper. That one.
Yeah.
I
And why
tend to
don't you like the
question a
Man
little bit
Runekeeper? I'm
more.
just interested.
One, because it's honestly boring to me, so I probably have some bias just based on it being a boring type combination to me, but
Got it. Got it.
I just, from my perspective, not knowing the lore too much, and most of it being from the game itself,
Yeah.
I just don't know that it makes that much sense.
Got it. No, that makes sense where you're coming from. Do you and I noticed that you always play an elf. Is that right? Or no, you played a dwarven.
Yeah.
That's right. I'm sorry. You played the warden when it came out.
I do have a dwarf now, yes. Actually two, but the other one I kind of abandoned.
That's funny,
So-
man. Yeah, so you abandoned it, but yeah. So I mean, I don't really mind the new classes because I just think that there were a couple people that the ones I don't know. I felt like the ones that cared about it a lot more.
Yeah.
Because of role playing than I cared about it for like lore reasons. I was just kind of like, I thought the Hobbit Champion, was a bit of a stretch. I thought that the Hobbit, the what's it called, was a bit of a stretch. Then the other one that I thought was a bit of a stretch was the Hobbit Lore Master. But otherwise, it's completely fine. I mean, I'm not super against it, I guess.
Yeah, so seems like, I guess from gameplay perspective, we're kind of similar, that it's not too bad, but then there's always a question of the lore there. Hobbit Captain's a weird one.
Ooh, what Mallory said. What do you think about Hobbit Captains? That's funny. I would dig it.
Yeah,
Wait, is this cow?
can
Is
you
this cow
really
sprinkled?
see
Where's my?
hobbits inspiring people that much? Maybe.
What about Sam? Sam is so
Yeah.
inspiring. Marigold Boffin is a Hobbit champion. Interesting. I don't know if I know that character, and I feel bad as a Lord of the Rings character not knowing that character, you know, or Lord of the Rings nerd not knowing that.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Anyway, but yeah, so what do you think? Are you kind of like, are you all in for the new characters? I mean, I know that you loved your Dwarden. You really got that going.
Yeah, I'm overall perfectly happy with it. I think it's a good thing even. Like I'd say
Yeah.
it's better now than it was before.
Totally. Yeah, I would agree with you on that one. Hey, congratulations, level 6, baby. Right? Did you
Oh,
just hit
thanks.
level
Yeah,
6?
level 6.
Nope, never mind.
I didn't even
Oh,
notice.
congratulations. I love it, man. But yeah, I mean, I think that them making the game more accessible to more people is a good move on their part. I know, like, so I do this MMO weekly news over on my channel, right? And I think that for me, as I look at the numbers for LOTRO on the Steam charts, which I know the Steam charts aren't necessarily entirely accurate, right? Like, I mean, a lot more people play with the dedicated launcher. However, I do think that, like, when you look at a game, when you look at the MMO, maybe how do you say it? Like the market capital that's there for MMOs, it's huge. I mean, even Lost Ark has been completely falling off, you know, population-wise over the last 4 months. It's lost 65% of its population, but it still has like 140,000 players on a regular basis,
wow.
which is crazy.
That's still a lot, yeah.
It's a lot, yeah. So I think that you know, if there is anything that's holding players back from joining the game and really enjoying, I think that that's probably a good thing for the game in general. You know what I mean? Because I mean, again, Steam charts don't tell the whole story at all. They only tell part of the story. Because you know most people play on the non Steam client, but it does. And Belfast said this, which is true. They show a good like overall population fluctuation essentially, which I think is really important.
They do show the trend.
Yeah,
because even if it's like
more accessible is good.
Yeah, just totally making up numbers. But if like 10% of players play on Steam, you still see how that 10% kind of changes.
Totally, yeah. So I mean, when I saw the new race class things, I think as a content creator, I tried to find the drama in it. You know, I was like, what about the Hobbit lore mastery? But at the end of the day, I was kind of like, you know what? It's actually not that bad. You know what I mean? It really isn't that bad. And I think it's a good thing, in my opinion.
That's good. So good things in LOTRO, the new race class combinations. That's one. But when you first started playing the game, what was the experience like, good or bad?
Yeah, man, it's such an interesting question. So I've actually, it's funny that you asked because I've been working on a video now, and it was really funny to go back. I made a lot of videos back in the day, way back in the day. I made a levels 1 to 35 experience video, so it's actually really fresh on my mind. You know, you asking this because I'm updating it. I'm gonna make it a level 1 to 65 essentially. Okay. And you know, the goods far outweigh the bads for me in this game quite a bit, quite a bit in my opinion. But I think that there's still, I think there are some bads that definitely turn people off that I see a lot of the times in the YouTube videos, and I'm sure you do too. And so the goods for me were world building. I mean, world building and music is just unbelievable. I mean, I'm going into Dunland right now. I'm in Enedwaith, I believe, on my main, and man, it's just beautiful. It's next level beautiful in my opinion. You know. And so, yeah, I definitely think that it has a lot going for it in that department. I think that the lore, and this is another thing for me, is that the lore is in a very important way, the lore is so good in this game. You know, like they really do take care of Tolkien's work. They take care to make sure that it's even book lore, not just movie lore, which is really cool. And I think that's great. I think there's a lot of free to play in this game. So all of those things made me really excited. The combat in this game was really good initially, and I can slow down if we want to talk about any of these things. I'm sorry, but those are just kind of some of the things I was thinking about.
Yeah. So,
but go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say with the combat.
Yeah.
Are you used to the older MMO style? I'm guessing if you thought it was good off the bat.
Yeah. So I'm used to the tap target. the tap target combat system, which is, what this is. And I like action combat. Like I think I played Elder Scrolls Online last night. Super fun. And really enjoyed that. But I think that like that there is something about the tap target system that makes me more excited. And so I really just appreciated that there were so many, there was such a wide array of combat in this game as a new player. Like, if you wanted to play a brawler, or I'm sorry, I played a warden, which is obviously, the best class in the world. And so as a guy that played a warden, I was so blown away by how creative the class was. With it's like almost, I heard someone say it, and this was totally true, like a Mortal Kombat style, like build up your combos and spend them, which I think was really cool. And then, of course, like I knew the Hunter and the Champion from playing before, like you've got something really simple and easy, which is really awesome as well. So I think that was really important for me. And so, yeah, I really enjoyed the combat for sure as I got into the game for sure.
Yeah, that's good. I enjoy the combat, obviously, but
yeah.
The thing I feel like I kind of struggle with this game or even any other older MMO is it is an older style combat with the tab targeting and not being as action oriented like more modern MMOs.
Yeah.
So it's something that I just see a lot of players, like their initial impression of the game is because of the combat or even some of the visual elements just being older. It can be a turnoff for players.
Totally. Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I think that you and I have both talked about it a lot, but the visuals are, it's funny because you have this RTX water, it looks absolutely unbelievable. And these draw distances that would put other games to shame. But then you have, character models that look a little bit off, which I know, of course, they're fixing, which is great. But yeah, they just look a little bit different. But I think that the combat, in my opinion, is really good, especially someone coming from like a World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy type game. The tap target combat is something that I think is good in this game, and I think that they have built the classes pretty well. In fact, even Papa Strudel said, I think a Lotro dev referenced Tekken when talking about Warden once, which I think is really cool. So like, their inspiration from other games is really cool too. I really like that. So I don't know. I personally like the combat. That's just a personal thing for me, but I don't know if do you notice most people liking the combat, disliking the combat just based on like your comments? Like, what do you feel like?
And I think I see more often stronger reactions from people that do not like it. I think this goes nowhere. Yeah, we have to go back inside, I think.
Oh, okay, no worries.
Okay. So yeah, I see more, it's kind of like, I don't know if it's necessarily the vocal minority that I'm hearing from, but it's kind of that, I don't mean to generalize here, but the vocal minority, if you take that group, tend to be louder. It seems kind of like that with people that don't like the gameplay are very loud about it.
Yeah, could we ask our chats? Because I'd actually be really interested because we both have like, a bunch of people like chat, and just maybe read off a couple if that's cool. Like chat, do you guys like the combat in Lotro? Is it a positive for you, a negative? Maybe even if it's I guess a neutral? Like that would be interesting. That would be just an interesting thing to see in the chats. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I guess some of the... Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, actually, I was about to bring up a comment in chat right when you mentioned that, so that was a good timing.
Do it.
So Mr. Weibel talked about, this actually goes a little bit away from the gameplay itself, but about the animations and character models. I would describe character models as almost cardboardy. They just look like cardboard.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a good term for it, but...
Great term for it.
Yeah, the animations, they're definitely not on par, I would say, with more modern games, really.
Right.
But it's kind of the reality with such an old game, and I guess that can be one of the struggles getting new players involved.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that one. A couple of the Lotro combat isn't the best, but it's serviceable. A lot of people say like they like the combat, but lag holds it back.
Oh, yeah.
That lag is the biggest holdback. And I think especially for a lot of people that play in the EU, I've heard that that's really, really rough. I know that like I've seen like the Lore Master can be a little bit hard because of the cast times and stuff like that. It can definitely be a little bit tough from what I've heard from them.
Yeah, that's something I've seen a lot more lately the past couple months. People
Yeah,
complaining a lot about lag when they get into the game. It's like they can enjoy the game, they like whatever they are doing, but it's kind of ruined by lag, which is
totally.
if I were a new player, like if I just started a new MMO and it was very laggy all the time, I probably would not have all that much fun.
I would totally agree with you. Yeah, I would totally agree. And I guess so. A lot of people are saying like combat is okay, but could be improved. Animations do a lot for a feel of responsiveness, and the animations are a little tough. And
Yeah.
I guess I noticed that actually playing Brawler. I don't know if you've noticed this one, Louis, as well. But like the newer classes, their animations are a little bit better. I wonder if they could do an animation revamp. Like where because like when the Brawler, when you do like your overhead smash, that feels good. And I don't necessarily know, like, especially when you think about captains and maybe guardians,
Hmm.
if their animations are really that impactful. Like I'm even looking right now, sorry, just to go details, but like when I hit, it almost looks like everything just kind of passes through. There's not really like I don't know, maybe that's something they could think about. I don't know.
Yeah, so I would definitely agree with Guardian, but it's interesting. I feel like some captain animations are kind of boring and basic, but then some of them, which you'll get to at higher level, are actually some of my favorite in the game.
Oh, okay, well
There's
there you go.
one particular ability that I really like the animation of on the
Which one is
captain.
that?
It is Gallant Display.
Ooh, okay. Well, I got a
It's in
level.
the blue line.
I love it. Yeah, I got a level for sure. In the blue line. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I don't know which line I am. Am I playing red? I think I'm playing red.
So
And
this is
either way.
actually a good time to bring up systems such as clash traits, virtue traits, all that sort of stuff that just the general systems in the game that you work with while leveling and progressing your character. So I have a lot of opinions on those things, even as a longtime player, but I get like trying to think what a new player would think. I have all these thoughts that like a lot of them are maybe annoying, but maybe also they're fun to have some ways to progress your character other than just leveling and getting new armor. So
Yeah.
this is where you come in as somebody who has returned to the game. What do you think of all that stuff as you level?
Yeah. So, and when we're talking about this, like, are we thinking like, I'm kind of thinking about the deed system. There's the instance system. There's the epic battle system. Is that kind of what you're talking about? Like going in that line, or like
Um,
what are some examples of some of those systems?
so I'm thinking more character. We can go with whatever, but more
Oh, sure.
character progression systems, things like maybe
Yes.
deeds, virtue traits, clash traits, and getting the clash trait points is a particular one of mine. But
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I think okay, so I'm opening the three that once you hit J, this is like these are the big three that they're really kind of trying to get you to do, I guess, as you go through. So there's the class traits tree, there's the race traits, and then there's the what's it called? The just the virtue traits. I do so one of the things that I'm really like that I love about this game is the class tree, the actual the what's it called, the class trait tree. I love that. I'm a big fan of class trait trees in MMOs. I think that I've been disappointed with some MMOs recently that have kind of gone away from they've just kind of gone away from that, like in order to make things simplified, they go away from the things that make things I don't know. They make your character unique, right? It's the RPG elements that I feel like MMORPGs have been missing a little bit recently, maybe. And so I love that LOTRO has that. I think that when it goes to other things like virtue traits, race traits, I think it can maybe come off as a little bit too much. Like it makes me want to go Google what the meta is, and I don't know if that's just me. I don't know if that's just me, and it feels a little bit grindy. Like it feels like there's I don't know. The game in general has the feel of if you're gonna play this game, you're gonna commit a lot of time to it. And it's gonna be a little bit of a bear to get through all of it. And I think that 140 levels, that definitely leads to that. But also like the fact that you've got virtue traits to level and class traits and race traits, I think it can feel like a lot. And I don't know, like for me personally, like I like playing the game. It's completely fine. But I think that like yeah, so race traits could have more impact, is what Dark Solo says, but also that virtue traits could be shared on percentages with alts. So like maybe you could take those virtue traits and that could be like a family-wide thing, kind of amongst your alternate characters. That would be interesting. But I think that it could be a little overwhelming for players. It certainly is for me, to the point where sometimes I don't. This is going to sound like, this is probably my personality. Like, I'll press J and I'll go, I'm capped on virtue points. I'll figure that out later. You know what I mean? Like, I think the strength of this game is to immerse yourself in the world, and I do think that some of the trees, some of the progression systems allow you to immerse yourself in your character more. Some feel a little bit grindy, and I don't know what that balance is. But I'd be curious in hearing what you think, because that's at least what I've felt. I don't know.
Yeah, so I will throw a wrench in this in a second.
Do it.
But yeah, my overall impression is, especially when I get to playing alts, that's where it starts to feel very grindy for me, because you basically have to do the same stuff every character that you make. And you talked about liking the clash trait system, which I really like as well. But I don't necessarily like the way you get clash trait points. Because you might not have run into this too much yet, but especially at higher levels, you have to do in some cases, a whole lot of quests. Like in West Rohan, you'll have to do basically every quest in the region to get 5 trait points. And there are some similar things like that moving forward. Eventually, also book quests is a big thing at higher levels now that have trait points.
Really?
So you can't just level your character and get your trait points, and that becomes a big deal because you're obviously a lot weaker. And for me, it's not even necessarily my character's weak, but if I have a character that, for example, boosted in dungeons or levels fast a way that's not questing, I would feel like they're not fully developed because they could have all these trait points.
Interesting.
So
interesting. That's really fascinating.
Yeah, that's the big one for me. But I guess what I thought was interesting is, as a relatively new player and relatively low level player, you didn't quite notice that yet, it seemed like.
No, I mean, and I will say, like, and I've been saying this in these review videos that I've been doing and thinking about, is like, I think that the streaming experience is just a little bit different. Like, I think that I'm spending so much time, and this is where I feel like, maybe again, if chat wants to ask, and I think a lot of people have been saying really great things here, and in your chat as well. But what I've been finding is that, I guess in the streaming, sometimes I will ignore the things that are complicated, just because I have chat I'm talking to, and I want to make sure that I'm like being entertaining, and yada yada yada. I don't know why that is, though. Does that? I don't know if I'm making sense right now. I think that almost like I can sometimes ignore the complicated systems just because it can feel a little overwhelming from the perspective of a streamer. But when I've played off stream, what I've noticed is, like, the game doesn't seem to be super alt friendly. It seems like there's a lot of grinding that you have to do for your alts. And I think who brought it up in my chat that I thought was really interesting was Belfast.
Virtue thing.
The percent virtue. No, Belfast actually said they could copy what Elder Scrolls Online did with champion points. I don't know how hard that would be for them to do. It seems like it'd be a lot. But in Elder Scrolls Online, when you hit max level, you begin earning champion points, and those are kind of like your, I guess they could maybe be called virtue points in a way. Like little percentages.
Okay, so they would be like virtue. Because I've actually had people bring that up and multiple times in either streams or comments before.
Yeah, totally. And so what it does is essentially, like, so let's say you leveled to, in our case, 140, right? Level to 140, you hit max. And then at the end of that, what happens once you hit max is you are able to, you essentially start earning champion points. So you're champion level 1, 2, 3, 4, and they start very fast, but there's up to, like, 2,000, 3,000 champion points. It's a lot that you can get just by playing every part of the game. It's like normal experience. But the cool thing about them that I find is that you actually, once you level up to that max cap again with another character, they have the exact same champion point. So let's say your main has a champion point, like I'm 200. As soon as your alt levels up to that max, they're level 200, which I think is really a cool system. It really honors players' time. It honors the players' time that they don't have all the time in the world to spend leveling alts, and it makes it a lot more alt friendly, which I think is really cool.
That's
I don't know, that could be a cool system. I don't know.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like it's something that could help at the very least. I have people in my chat talking about, like, being a completionist especially is tough, because if you're a completionist and then want to play an alt on top of that, you kind of have to feel like you have to complete everything again. Which,
yeah, absolutely.
It can just be tough.
Now, I think when it comes to, Oh, go ahead. But do you want to throw a wrench? I thought you said something about a
Yes,
wrench. Your
so,
chat was excited about a wrench.
1 second for that.
No, you're good. You're good. Take your time.
That made me lose my train of thought, but that's okay. Yeah, so if you... Oh, I really don't know anymore. Okay, we'll just go with the wrench. So, we've talked about all this stuff, but then there's the system right around level 50 that you get with legendary items. Does that start to feel like too much when you get to adding that on top of everything else?
Okay, I've got a lot of opinions about the legendary system, and this is what's funny is I will say this out loud. I am very much in the minority here, completely and totally. Because when I'm with my chat, my chat, I think that they probably disagree with me more on this one than I think a lot of other people do. I really like the legendary item system as a concept. I don't necessarily like how it plays out in game. The reason is it doesn't really for me personally, like going through a game like this, it feels good to get a new weapon and level that weapon up, right? Or not level that weapon up, but level up with that weapon, and then you go for the next weapon, and that's an axe instead of a sword, and it adds some variety. And where I know where they're coming from with legendary items, like the idea of having Anduril for yourself or Glamdring for yourself, it feels. I don't necessarily love that system. It also adds a complication that I think that the legendary item system is the one system in the game that I would say, just if they could in the next expansion, I would scrap it. I would have all of the best in slot stuff hidden behind like raid stuff, like hid behind raid stuff and stuff like that, just because the weapon in the MMO, especially in the fantasy MMO, is so important in my opinion. Like, it's just so important that the legendary item system feels very grindy. The other problem with it, just from an outsider's perspective, it's very pay to win as well. You can actually put your tracery in, you can go buy Mithril coins and immediately up level them all the way to the top, which can, I'm just, I don't think the game is pay to win. I think that there's a lot of it really tries to avoid that a lot. But from an outsider's perspective, they'll see that and go, okay, there it is,
Yep.
And so I don't personally love the legendary item system. It's just me. I do like getting a new weapon from like a raid, and that feels really good. And I do think the system is just a little too complicated. Like, it adds. Okay. That's just my opinion, though. I think I'm a little controversial on that one. That's just me, though. I don't know.
I think that is a good perspective, and it's really nice to hear because, of course, as a new player, that is how you've experienced it. Like, that's the thing with all this stuff, but I have all these opinions, thoughts on these things, but they're from the perspective of somebody who's played a long time. So the new legendary item system compared to the old one, I think, is a lot better, but you actually do miss that element with the old system. You'd get new legendary weapons as you leveled up, so you'd actually get upgraded weapons. It wouldn't necessarily be like you mentioned in raid or dungeons for the best one and all that, but there is, I guess, that element missed out with the new system, but then it's still not quite like just getting new weapons as you level, random weapons basically.
Yeah. And the argument against myself here, and I'd actually love to hear your thought on it, which is a very fair argument. The argument against myself here is that the legendary weapon allows you to play into the idea that you have this named weapon. It's this legendary thing. It's this thing that makes you feel like you're in the Lord of the Rings, right? Because all of the great characters have a named weapon. You know what I mean? Like, Glamdring, Sting, those. Do you feel that? And what do you think about that argument? I'd be really interested.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, actually. It kind of plays into the whole living in Middle-earth, living in the Lord of the Rings, to make yourself feel more legendary. And like, when you get the weapons, you basically need them to eventually get into Moria. So there's that whole theme around them. So I think that is important. I also personally do not mind having a weapon stick with you. It does get a little bit stale, that part I will admit. It's like it's just the same weapon, and it's a whole new progression system. Where you talked about that deal a little bit, but yeah, sometimes I do miss getting new weapons, but I also like it kind of smooths out the progression, because you've mentioned, I think, weapons being very important and like upgrading them, but to me that helps keep people a little bit more level. Like, I guess my impression is with the games where you can get weapons through raids or something like that is there can be a bigger gap between like somebody who has not gotten that weapon and
Yes,
somebody who has. And I guess
totally agree.
having legendary weapons as a system can help close that gap a little bit and maybe make gear a little bit more important, like armor, jewelry.
Yeah. No, I would agree. Let's see. So Dark Solo said this is very interesting. He said low variety on the weapon design does not contribute to the feeling of having the exquisite item. For me, legendary items. So I have two problems with them. The one is that they feel very bloated in the system, like having to spend traceries to spend this much, and you have to get this tracer to do this, and all that stuff. That can feel a little bloated in my opinion. However, I would say that if one thing they could do that would be really fascinating would be to add legendary weapon skins. Like if legendary weapons are going to be a thing, it would be cool if like certain raid bosses dropped a certain legendary weapon skin, right? Like I remember back in the day playing the Rift raid, in Shadows of Angmar, like getting the shoulder pads from the Balrog was a big deal. Like you knew the person that had those shoulder guards was like had done the work, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the weapon has always felt like that to me in other games. So I wonder if like, say you do Hidden Horde tier 8 or 7 or how high does it go? 6?
The usually it's tier 5, but I don't know if Hidden Horde's up that high yet.
Professional
I think
LOTRO players,
raids go
everybody.
up to tier 3 maybe.
Yeah, so say it's like tier 5 and you kill the Shadowlight, Snowlightbringer says tier 5. So say
wow.
that if you kill the dragon on tier 5, it has a chance to drop a legendary weapon item skin. I could definitely see that being a huge fix for me, because although it would still have the same stats, you would have the skin that when you sit in Bree, listening to the bands on Landroval or whatever, it would be really, really cool to say like, oh dude, that person beat that dragon on tier 5. That's a hard move, or like, the equivalent of the Balrog. Like that's tough to do. I do think the legendary item makes you miss out on that a little bit,
Yeah, I think that could actually be a great system, having a weapon in particular, legendary weapon, if they want to theme it around that, cosmetics behind different types of content, raids, things like that.
Right. I just think that would be interesting. But I guess my second problem that doesn't go away is the system is very complex. And even just the UI of it, dragging it over the little flame thing, and then, dragging it just feels kind of unintuitive. And I know it's gotten better. I've heard a lot of people say like it used to be really bad. Now it's gotten a lot better, which is, thumbs up on that. But anyway, that's just how I feel about it, I guess.
Right,
Dark Solo says, any devs here? He wants us to know if we have any devs in
ugh.
our chat. Maybe we can get them to do this.
I have heard sometimes the developers do watch videos, streams. So it's kind of scary actually, but
Louis, I'm a brand risk man. They can't. I'm just kidding. I don't know. Do you think if you were, it's a funny thing to ask, but do you think that if you were a developer, like it would be hard because we as content creators have to be critical of the game.
yeah.
Like, do you think it'd be easy to watch someone that like loved the Andang Fire
Wow.
says that the devs do. The devs do. They do watch the thing.
Yeah.
Andang says, one time I went on a rant and the dev came in and I felt bad instantly.
Oh no.
If Cordovan started talking in my chat right now, I would be the nicest.
Yeah,
I'm just
because
kidding.
I think that's actually a good point. This is a little bit off topic, but like if I make a video
Totally.
critical about the game where I'm talking critically about it, like not liking the clash trait points, how you get those, and then you kind of think about that from the game perspective, but then when an actual developer, like a human that worked on the game, comes into play, it's a lot harder to be so critical.
It is. You're kind of bad. Well, I mean, even thinking about it. So I did I went to and I know, I'm sorry, it's a little off topic. We'll get back to your questions and stuff. But I was on the, what's it called? Thing, the casual stroll through Cardolan or whatever when it came out, or Swanfleet it was. And I asked the developer guy, I asked him there, I said, what's the thing that you don't understand? Or that people don't understand about being a game developer or a map developer? What do people not get? And he said just how long it takes for us to make changes. like how difficult it is for us to actually make changes is a crazy thing. And so I would say like I try my best, especially in the criticalness of being a content creator, to go like, yes, I would love for them to create skins for legendary items. That would be awesome. But like that's got to be such a hard thing to do developmentally. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, and they have talked about this before. It's something that they used to not talk about too much. I think we mentioned this previously when we were doing stuff together, but Reninia, back when he started, he was very open with communication, and that seems to have spread a little bit to other developers and the such.
Right.
And I've heard them just talk about stuff like that before, having to like basically decide what is even worth doing. They have a list of priorities, stuff that's
Totally.
maybe easy to fix or easy to change, easy to add versus very complicated. They have
100%.
a finite amount of resources basically that they have to work with, and something that
Yep.
from not only the player perspective but the content creator perspective just have to be mindful of that.
Yeah, I mean, they're people too. It's true, you know, like it is true on that end, right? So anyway, sorry, but yeah, I think that that's always funny. Like if a dev is in here, but I mean, I think that the devs have done a really fantastic job, like an unbelievably fantastic job, especially recently, of being very open. In fact, I put that in my my thoughts for my reviews of 1 to 65 is like when they first came out, when Cordovan and Severlin did their big Q&A on Twitch. I watched that. I reacted to that on the channel here, and I loved it. I was like, this is so good. And at the end, Cordovan and Severlin were like, yeah, we'll probably try to do this once every 4 months, every 5 months, something like that, I think he said. And then I literally, in the video that I made, went, dudes, guys, please do this more often. Like, this is great. Even if it's just something simple, like, because they said something that really kind of blew my mind. He said, you know, Cordovan said, like, you know, so we actually bought new servers, like physical servers. We put them in the, you know, in the slots and that stuff. I loved that. I really, really liked that. Because like, I was like, okay, that actually shows me that you guys are doing stuff, you know? And I think that's one of the things that you can always feel whenever you play a game like this, is that the devs just kind of set it and forget it. But I loved that. But what was so cool about that was the next month, they actually did it again. And I think there was probably a lot of people probably gave that feedback. It wasn't just me, but it was cool to see that, you know?
Yeah, I definitely agree. And it's good to hear from the new player perspective. I guess just seeing developer involvement is a good thing.
Yeah.
Okay, and I hate to completely shift topics, but in the interest of time, you have like roughly 40 minutes left.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you go ahead.
We should probably get talking a little bit about Before the Shadow and how that might or might not relate to the new player experience. So leading up to that, as a new player, how have you thought about LOTRO having so many different zones, especially below level 50, like so many different alternatives and different paths you can go?
I've personally really liked it. I think that for me, I think they recognize their audience with the amount of different zones that there are. One of the reasons I say that is because, you know, so many people that are in the game right now have returned. They're like me, you know, they came back at the 15th anniversary, they came back at the Rings of Power release, and they're also, ooh, that's a big boy. We can take him though, right? The Warg.
That scary guy? Maybe.
Yeah, we can totally take him.
We have a captain.
We're professional LOTROers, dude. This is our game. But I think that the fact that there's just so many zones to play through. There's like Lone Lands can feel a little bit long, and if you knew them before, I think that it's a good thing that they have that going for them. At least that's my opinion. Oh, dude, you're about to die. What the heck? Don't die.
Oh, have a bleed.
Yeah, let's get you healed up before we go after this dude. But I like that they have a lot of zones to level through. I like that they have options, because I think they recognize that most of their players have played through this before. So I think that Before the Shadow is actually a really good thing, in my opinion. Let's see how hard this guy hits, by the way. Oh, he hits like a truck. I'm at half health. No, there goes my title. Oh no! My
Oh
title.
man,
I'm just kidding.
that's the most important thing too.
Where's my wary title? We've got this. We've got this. No, but I like that. I do personally, and I like what they're focusing on with Before the Shadow. I can definitely see if you're an endgame player, it probably feels a little bit rough that we're getting a new. Does it feel rough to you as a player that's played endgame that we're not getting a new raid?
So I'm a little bit off with Gundabad. I of course played the level 130 endgame a lot. I played on Nor specifically Legendary Server different level caps, so I have a little bit of a funky perspective, I guess, different perspective on that. So I have not played Gundabad endgame all that much.
Oh, okay.
Partially because of some Gundabad issues that, or at least issues I have with Gundabad, and also just partially because I've been busy with other stuff in the game. They've added so many low-level zones this past year, so naturally I've played low-level characters a little bit more than, say, what I did with the level 130 cap when I actually did, like, the raids and such.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I feel like it might be a little bit much on the high level, or a little bit much on the low level content, and feeling like we're just not getting much for end game. But there's actually some end game stuff going on, so I'm going to probably take a little bit of a break from the game right here, and we will look at Before the Shadow. So for anybody that does not know what Before the Shadow, in addition to, what's the best page for this? In addition to new zones for level 1 to 32, we have, the 2 new zones, Swampfleet and Cardalin, but there's also going to be a 6-man instance, at least after launch. That is a little detail that they do not advertise right here. And then there will be a new skirmish, which will have, they've said, in-game relevant rewards. And finally, the delving system. This one might be a little bit controversial in the way it works, but this is only for level cap characters.
Why do you say it's controversial?
Because I think since it's a system that's starting out for the missions, I think it's something that lower level players, and I personally, would want to participate in on my lower level characters. Like, it's something to increase the difficulty of a mission. So it would be nice to have that for low level characters.
Yeah, that makes sense. I get that. I mean, one of the reasons, like what you said there, I'm excited about Before the Shadow for the state of the game as a whole, is I don't think that if you released a mini expansion at endgame, that the players that need to be in the game right now, I don't think they'd experience it, right? Like with this hype around Lord of the Rings, I think that you have to focus a lot of your efforts on the beginning of the game because you want players to return and come back. Like, I think that instead of saying we have a longer game, we have a better beginning of the game for you. We've got something that you can experience right now as a returning player. I think that that's going to be a big deal. I mean, a lot of my chat is saying like that they hate that there's no new raid and stuff like that. I could see that. I can see that for sure.
Yeah, and that actually, I kind of completely forgot about this, but with Gundabad, one of the reasons that I haven't played it as much is even before they added the 6-man in the raid, it just got so stale to me, and it was like doing the same thing over and over. There just hasn't been anything to change it up, really.
Yeah, I can see it getting stale for sure. As someone who isn't an in-game player because I have a boosted bear, I think I played the Hidden Horde and I went, "This is a cool raid. It's not the best raid I've ever played." Does that make sense? Like, it's a cool raid. It's fine. It's got 3 bosses. It's not the Rift, Like, I think that when you have a game that is this long, at 140 levels, you got to push all the way through all of that to get to max level. I would want the raid to be legendary, and HH just doesn't feel legendary to me. Okay. I don't know. I don't know.
I haven't played it, actually. I'm that far behind on Gundabads, but my kin might get there soon enough. So yeah, I'll be interested to see how that is, but yeah, it's could be a little bit tough for end game players.
Yeah, it makes complete sense. I mean, Soft Snake does have a good point. He said, try to complete T5 and then you can ask for a new raid. I've only completed T1 barely with help. That's completely fair.
Yeah, I have a few opinions on how in-game progression works with LOTRO. I'm not the biggest fan of it. But
Okay.
yeah, when you get to that point where you keep doing the same raid over and over, even if you add tiers of difficulty, it's still the same raid. Still the same.
Yeah.
They might have new mechanics and whatever, but it's still the same environment. Same bosses, same enemies, same thing.
Yep.
Besides the difficulty and mechanics. But anyway, so yeah, with the Before the Shadow mini expansion and how it ties in, I guess, to the new player experience. The question is, does it actually revamp when a new player comes to the game? Does it actually revamp their new player experience? Because they have said that the zones that are in game right now, so zones like Iriluen, Breland, the Shire, they recommend you start with those rather than Before the Shadow as a new player.
Yeah, there's. Here's my thought. I don't know. I think that that's completely for PR, in my opinion. I think that the reason they're saying that is because they can't say, "Hey, it's a brand new player experience that you have to pay for," right?
Yeah,
that wouldn't make any sense.
Part.
But the reality is, I bet you if you were to take a percentage, I bet 95% of players that have come back in the last 6 months and will come back in the next 100 or next like month or two will be returning players, not new players. I think these will mostly be players that have played through those regions before. And so that's my thought. I think, I at least that's me. I don't know. What do you think that's true? Like most people are probably going to come back and get it.
Yeah, I don't really see a new player really wanting to buy Before the Shadow. Like if I were a new player in some other MMO and I saw that they had a mini expansion, but it was levels 1 to 32, I would not really see the point in buying it when I could play the other thing that is just free.
Yeah, but like I hear you. I think that one thing that will help the new player experience in this one would be that the population hopefully will grow around that new player zone experience. One thing that I've noticed that's a big negative for me right now, and in fact, it's probably my biggest negative in the game right now as a level 65, is that there really isn't anybody doing mid-game group content on level because there's just so many levels. And in order to have that happen, you have to have a big chunk of players play through the game at the same time, essentially. You know what I mean? And so that's what I think in my opinion. Now I could be wrong on that, but I think that because for the new player that, starts with Before the Shadow that doesn't buy Before the Shadow, there may be some help in that, you'll be able to do some of the group content with that crew that's leveling up through that experience. But that's been my hardest thing in the game right now.
Yeah, I think we'd really have to see because they haven't done anything like this before. So I think there is a lot of unknown there. Like if there will actually be enough players that maybe start the game, even if they don't do Before the Shadow, but give a boost to kind of that mid-level population so you can run those dungeons on level and with a relatively full group.
Yeah, I know. And I think that for me, like group content is a really essential part of gameplay, especially in an MMO. And this game struggles with it for a couple of reasons. And again, I feel like we're just trashing on the game. We should talk about some good things about the game too, because it is a great game. It's one of my favorite MMOs. But I do think that the group content struggles for a couple of reasons. The first one is because there's not enough players, especially in the mid levels. At the low levels, there are enough players, I think. But in the mid levels, there aren't. But also the group finder is just really not good, especially in comparison to a lot of other ones. And so I think that if they were to either, level squish, which would be a lot more work than a group finder. But I think having a group finder that automatically puts you into like, the Great Barrow, for instance, like I can queue up as a DPS for Great Barrow, wait 10, 15 minutes, and then automatically puts me in a group and puts me in the instance. That would be great. I just don't think that exists right now.
They used to have something like that, but one, nobody used it, and two, it functioned pretty poorly. Like it wouldn't give you good group compositions. So it did technically exist. In the entire time that system existed, which was a few years, I think I got one random group that actually gave me, it was a 3-man. I queued up with another player, so there were already 2 of us, and we actually found a third person. It was a
Oh my
miracle.
gosh. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there you go. I guess if they already had it before. I mean, yeah, well, there you go. They already had it, it
Yeah.
didn't work.
It didn't work that well. No.
That's crazy, man. Wow. Okay. Okay. Interesting. Andang
Yeah.
says that people used to use the group finder on Landy quite a bit. Yeah, I wonder if it was
Oh
server
wow.
based. I could definitely see it being server based. I don't know.
Yeah, because when we got the group, I was on Arkenstone at the time, even though
Which
I'm
is
on
a huge
Major Ball
server.
now. But yeah,
Man, that is fascinating.
maybe it's also partially that I didn't use it enough or didn't try to.
Could be. Well, I mean, I'm just saying that, like, and if it didn't work, that didn't work. But I would say that, like, in World of Warcraft, I mean, I think literally every other ESO, Final Fantasy, yes, SWTOR, yes, they all have a group finder that works. They all have a group finder that allows people to get into the game. But anyway, I mean, I will say this though: the group content is pretty impressive. I have been playing with a lot of chat here in Twitch, and with our kinship here and stuff. And the group content that we do is awesome. The Moria group content is fantastic. The 6-mans are really creative and good. I just wish there were more people playing it, And so just to throw a bone to LOTRO, they have done a great job of some of that content.
Oh yeah, I personally love all the dungeons that you get while leveling up to get access to, but it is hard. I think you almost have to have, some people have talked about this in the chat, but you almost have to already have a group established, something like a kinship or just regular group of players you play with to actually get to run those.
Yeah. It's super fascinating, man. I don't know, but I think it's great. By the way, our characters look great here, by the way. This is a good we're having a podcast talk like type vibe. It's just talking on horses, right? This is cool.
I cannot actually see in game right now.
I like
There
it.
we
I just
go.
like it.
Oh yeah, I did. That is nice.
I can
We're
put my
actually
picture
having
over
a
my
chat.
guy and
Sure, it's a 2-man fellowship, but it's still a fellowship chat.
it's a 2-man fellowship. Come on, man. I don't know. It's so funny.
Ugh. Okay, so with before the shadow, let's see, what have been your impressions with the mission system?
I personally like the mission system because it's a really cool way to level up solo, especially with a game with this many solo with this many levels. It's a nice thing to have. I did, I was just, as a personal experience, I was needing to get to level 65 to play with some of my kinship to do some of the stuff that I promised I would do by the, last Tuesday or last Thursday. And I didn't have it done because I am a procrastinator. So I got on stream, I ran some instances with an experience booster, and then boom, like I was able to level up really quickly. I thought that was cool. Oh, yeah. I personally like that the delving system is coming to the solo content because it gives solo players a way to get raid tier gear.
Oh yeah.
But I don't know if you have a different experience or like a different excitement level about that. I think it's a cool thing because then you can get raid tier through raiding, and then you can also get it through just running a solo piece of content, which I don't think a lot of other games have that ability for you to actually get raid tier level gear for solo. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think raid tier, something I have always had the opinion of, I don't know how much people agree or disagree, but I think that the best gear typically is raid gear, like the 12 and LOTRO, it's 12-man instance. I don't necessarily think that should be the case. I don't mind, maybe not every single piece of gear being an option here, but having some of the best pieces of gear or great pieces of gear in 3-mans or 6-mans, or even solo options like with the delving system. I like, if something is the same relative difficulty for 3 players as it is for 12 players, it's just a different number of players. I think the gear should be comparable with them, but yeah, that's a totally different thing. As far as solo goes, though, I love having that option.
Yeah, I think it's great. Do you like the skirmishes?
Yeah, so that's another thing coming with Before the Shadow is a new skirmish, which is level 20 plus. And you can run them, presumably this one's the same, solo, duo, 3-man, 6-man, or 12-man, and also tiers 1 and 2, I believe, but we'll see with this new one, tiers 1, 2, and 3. We'll see if this new one has all that same stuff, but It's really interesting because I, at a baseline level, enjoy skirmishes, but the systems and reward with them are
Ah,
not really updated. There's basically no reason to run a skirmish. So what's
yeah.
interesting with Before the Shadow is they're adding a new skirmish, and this new skirmish will have better loot than the old skirmishes, but they're not updating all the old skirmishes to match the new skirmish. So you kind of have all the old skirmishes, then suddenly a new skirmish, the first one in however many years, but it has a totally different loot system.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Hold on. I don't know if this is true. This is probably true, but Apuk says that they said that delving raid gear will not have any bonuses. They won't
Um,
have raid gear bonuses?
it so like set bonuses, I think they said it would have set bonuses, but
Oh, okay.
different than the raid one. Maybe not as strong as the raid one or as
Yeah.
impactful, something like that. Just different, I think.
Yeah. I I have a I I have a funny thing about skirmishes. I really, really, really like offensive skirmishes. I'm
Oh,
not a fan of the defensive.
yeah,
That's my only thing. And I don't know.
that's a good
I think
point.
the defensive is so boring.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
like,
honestly the exact same way. I like offensive skirmishes, do not like defensive skirmishes.
yeah,
Because you
that's
just
my only thing.
they're okay if I'm like busy doing something else and I can half play the game, because then I can be
Hmm.
lazy and just sit there. But
Yeah.
as Moosecat on my chat is saying, defensive take too long as well. Because
Yeah.
you go at the enemy's pace instead of your
Agreed.
pace.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now, Harvane just said, and Harvane is the Lotro expert on YouTube,
Yeah.
by the way. They said delving gear won't have set
Oh, it won't
bonuses.
have set bonuses. Well, never mind.
See,
I
I don't
don't know
like
where I
that.
heard that from, but maybe they
No, it's
changed their
okay.
mind as well. Because
See that
it is still in development.
I don't love that. Okay, and I
Yeah.
think that if they were going to take feedback, I think that the innovative idea with the delving system is that you can get raid tier level gear as a solo or with just one friend, which I think is a
Yeah.
huge win. I
And I
mean,
think
you think, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that would actually be a great opportunity to have if they had set bonuses, not like the same ones as the raid gear, but they could have more solo oriented ones. Like set
Yeah,
bonuses that are better for solo content.
yeah, I think that would be really cool. Now, the reason, yeah, see, I don't love that. I don't. My thoughts are forming in my mind, but the reason I think of this is because, like, if you think about, I'm over here on Twitch all the time, but like streamers like Christy, who is she's always streaming with one of her friends. You know, Green Eyed streams with some friends. Like Saskia and I will hang out together. Like those are two mans, and I think that that's
Hmm.
really cool. I think that you should incentivize playing with one friend just as much as playing with a raid.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that even just having like I'm trying to think of how it could maybe even if it's just overworld set bonuses, like a movement speed increase or something like that.
Oh
I
yeah,
don't know.
that could be
Maybe that's
interesting.
just me.
Yeah, I think so. This is one of the things that maybe as a newer returning player, you don't
Yeah.
have too much experience with, but there are a lot of systems and just things in the game that have been abandoned over time. So
Yeah.
things like epic battles, they did that for
Yeah.
level 95, 100, maybe 105. Actually, I don't even think 105. And they just kind of abandoned it. Featured
Okay.
instances have been somewhat updated, but
Hmm.
mostly abandoned. And I don't know, there are so many different things, mount of combat. Anyway, all this sort of stuff. I guess is there
Yeah.
much concern as a new player that the delving system will be just like not updated after a while?
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. Redbeard Flynn, we reacted to a video of his, and he put out a great video as a new player in Lotro, which was so cool. I'd been playing for like 3 or 4 months. I was like, oh, this is gonna be awesome. And when he hits level 10, it pops up, boom, go to the epic battle of Helm's Deep. And if you're a Lord of the
Oh,
Rings fan or even anything, you're like, oh, of course we're gonna go do that right now. And it was just a super lame piece of content.
yeah,
I allude a lot to WoW when I say that I don't think that everything that World of Warcraft has done has been the best. And obviously, like there are a lot of things that about it
Mhm.
that are not good. And I think each of our chats could probably say, yeah, there's a lot of reasons we play this instead of WoW. But I think one thing that WoW has done really well is it has shed systems as it's gone through expansions. It's taken things away, like legendary item systems, Azerite power, all of those things. And that I think could be really helpful for Lotro, because I mean, even if like I'm in game right now, if I go to like my wallet and just I think Bloodborne talked about this too, but the amount of just currencies that you get, it's just so many. It can be
Oh
very
yeah.
overwhelming. I think we could shed a lot of that, and the game could be really beautiful in its simplicity. But I think that could definitely be a thing. I think as a new player, it's especially when you hit level 10, it's very
Oh
overwhelming
yeah.
the amount of pop-ups that you get. It's like boom, 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 and it's like do epic battles. You can do skirmishes now. Here's a new title. All of those things. I think I know the intention is to make the game more full and have a lot more to do, but I think it can be a lot. So even if the systems are in the game, I don't think you should notify people quite as much. That's my
Oh
opinion, though.
yeah. That's kind of interesting because from my perspective, I would think that if you aren't notified about them, you might not know they exist, which
Yeah, and
maybe
I
there's
almost think
another
that would
way
be
to
a
do
good
it.
thing.
Yeah,
I
I was
almost think that would
wondering
be a
if
good
that's
thing, though.
actually a good thing.
because
Oh,
because I think when like epic battles, they've abandoned those. When it I think the
yeah.
the overwhelm that comes, it can kind of feel maybe mobile game-ish sometimes, like the amount of
Oh,
things that you
yeah.
get, like boom, level 10, like 8 things. And again, it's a minor thing, but I think that can confuse the new player. It can make the new player feel like, gosh, there's just so much game to play. There's just so much to do. If I'm really going to do this, I'm going to have to invest a lot of time. And I think the
Mhm.
average MMO player today is, between the ages of, 25 and 55, and they're busy. And so I don't know. I think it
I
could I
barely
think it could
follow it.
help the new player experience. But that's just me. Hello to your cat, by the way.
Oh, yes, she's saying hello to everybody. Always likes the microphone's just like perfect for her to rub her head against, so she has to
Oh yeah,
let
dude.
everybody know.
She's the real star here. Let's do it, man. Let's be
Should
honest.
hide so the cat looks like it's streaming. Sometimes she
What
does
do you
stream.
think? Like, do you like the amount of systems that are in the game? I'd love to hear from someone who's been playing for a long time. Like, you've had the ability to go through them all. Like, are there ones that you would take away, or do you think revamp? Like, what do you think?
I think they need to make things consistent is the biggest thing. They just have so many different things that are just like inconsistent.
Right,
So
right.
I feel like, skirmishes are, I feel like, okay, so missions, skirmishes, and dungeons and epic battles, those are all the regular group content things, right?
Yeah,
Like
epic
that are
battles.
instanced, at least.
Yeah,
Not even group
yeah.
missions isn't
Uh-huh.
even group content, but you can do those with 2 players, which is technically a group. But the thing with those, there are, as Moosecat says here, there are too many systems and not enough developer time for it. So
True.
it's
Very true.
that's what I feel like. I feel like each system is only a little bit fleshed out. Even some of the really old ones, they just could still use a lot of work.
Yeah, I agree.
So
Yeah.
yeah, there's a whole lot I could get into in like the more nitty gritty details with it. So with like epic battles, your character actually scales to level 100, which could be a great system to have in place for even other types of content. But then low level characters are very weak. Higher level characters are extra strong compared to a regular level 100 that's around Gondor. So
Yeah.
there are issues with things like that.
I
So
feel that.
with I guess the question is, what do you do going forward though? Do you actually just like delete epic battles from the game, or
Yeah.
can you really do that? Because it's like content you worked on, you made, but yeah, that's a whole
I'm
can of
such a
worms.
I know it's a whole can of worms. I'm such a fan, and this is probably just a me thing. I like to garden with my family. Like we like to have like a little garden, and pruning is a really, really important part of the growth of
Yeah,
the plant.
yeah.
Honestly, if you don't prune your trees, they're not going to produce fruit. And so I do think that there are some things that can be pruned. Now I know they've definitely done that. They've pruned the LI system, but I think that what Moosecat said in your chat was true. Too many systems, not enough dev time. I think these systems probably take up dev time, or at least even in your mind, they take up dev time. And I think there's a lot that they could be. They could even if they don't do it away with it. Maybe it's not letting the level 10 player that's brand new not knowing about it. But it's. I think there's a lot of. I don't know.
And
Anyway, but as a new player, I think as someone who's come back, the systems it feels like there's a lot, and that I need to spend a lot of time learning them. I think every MMO has that to some degree, but I would say that the ones that are the biggest budget MMOs, which again is a big asterisk because this isn't the biggest budget MMO, they do a lot of work to try to simplify the systems and to make it for the new player not feel like there are all these things to do. Like the reality is, in every MMO, there's just a ton of systems and there's a ton of things you can do from, even if I take my example with World of Warcraft, there's mount collection and there's achievements and there is, heroic raids and mythic plus, but they don't throw that at the level 10 player. They don't throw that right in the face. They kind of let it progress over time, because even what Harvane said is true. Like they can't remove epic battles because it's tied to LOTRO, right? Like that's part of it's part of the game. And so I just think that maybe it could be easier, make it a little bit less difficult to make it a little less confusing for the new player. That's my thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, so bringing up chat, I thought there were some great points here from, wow, what a time to get.
From Chat69XYZ, best adult dating site. Yeah, that's my favorite.
Oh, boy.
Sorry,
oh, hey, I actually have mods here. I forget that I have mods now, to be honest, but even though
for my Twitch crew, that was I just got a spam bot as well. It's happening.
Oh, man. Wow. So yeah, what Harvane said, there are so many things that are just tied into LOTRO, so it can be difficult, like with epic battles, even things like, I don't know, other things, my mind is not going to them right now, but with other things, they're just tied into LOTRO, so it's something that's really hard to remove. So I guess the question is, can you revamp it, which is exactly what Hunter Raider was getting to. They mentioned fuse epic battles system with skirmish, but something I would propose is all these types of group content, so maybe skirmishes and epic battles, convert them into regular dungeons that probably more MMO players are familiar with.
Yeah, I could definitely see that being a thing. I mean, it's funny, like, because I mean, going back to what we talked about before with like developer time, like what do you want them to really spend time on right now? I think from a new player perspective, I would just want them to spend the time to take away those notifications of those systems at level 10. I don't necessarily want them spending all the time on that, because like what they've talked about in their dev streams, they are spending time on those things that I want them to spend time on, which is lag is a big one. They talked about maps even in the casual stroll, like how they're going to revamp maps, which is huge. I think that I want them to spend their time on that. If I were going to throw I don't know if this was a wrench in the question that you just asked, I'm sorry. If I were going to throw like a magic bullet, like all the dev time, you have all the, I'm going to give you a dev team of 100 to work on one issue, it would be a level squish in my opinion. Okay. But that's just, that's kind of my out there opinion, I think, as a content creator. I think that if you could make the journey the same amount of time, but just squish the level so it doesn't feel so huge for the player, that would be my thing. But that's just me.
Yeah, I would love a level squish, but I honestly just worry how it would turn out with this game.
Probably wouldn't be the
best. Yeah, it's not to say that they would like purposefully do a bad job. Obviously, they want to purposefully do a bad job, but a level squish, there are just so many things that you have to do with it. And I'd be worried, even with the legendary item revamp they recently did, there were some things they missed. And like the initial pass with it, and they had to do patches, remove some things that were supposed to be removed, or some things that weren't even converted to the new system yet. So there were just things like that. And I'd be, no matter if it's a level squish or even converting, like the suggestion earlier, converting epic battles to skirmishes, no matter what it is like that, I'd just be worried that something would go wrong.
Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, it's a big undertaking for sure. Yeah. And I mean, yeah, you're probably right. It'd probably go. I got to be a little bit more graceful. So, I understand from the dev perspective.
No, I'd love for it to go well. It's just I couldn't actually see it going all that well.
Yeah, it would be a lot. I just think the hard thing is, like, I think the reality check that I have to like it would be difficult and it would take a lot of time and all that stuff is like there are other MMOs out there. And I want this one to be the most successful, if I'm honest. I'm very biased in that way. And I think that if you're just you're not a streamer, you're not a content creator, you're not, super tied to Tolkien's world, I think this is one of the better ones out there, but it can be kind of hard to get into sometimes, Mm-hmm. And I think, there are just some of those things that stand in the way, and that's what I'd want them to remove. I think that some of the notifications that you get at level 10, the lag, the character models, I think that for me, the amount of levels is a thing that stands in the way for a new player coming all the way in. Again, these aren't deal breakers. I've come in and I love the game. I'm going to keep on playing the game because it's freaking awesome. And I think all of those things are so minor and compared to the amount that I love about this game, which we could totally talk about if you want to. But I think that these are the minor things that, when we blow them up, they become major.
Yeah.
That's just my thing.
Yeah, no, I think that's because you really are like a pretty fresh perspective on the game, so it's really great to hear your thoughts on that. And that's like all these things are maybe what you first notice or just bigger things on your mind as you're getting into the game.
I mean, could I talk about some of the things that I love? Because is that okay?
Yeah, that would be totally fine. With Before the Shadow, what are some things you're like most excited for with it?
Honestly, man, I'm really excited for the population bump that's going to come. I love expansions whenever the population bump happens. I'm super stoked to see all the new players come in. I'm really excited for the new zones. I think that the zone building in LOTRO is so incredibly amazing. Like they do just like even where we're sitting right now in the game, I'm looking at this. I'm like, this is a 15-year-old area. We're sitting on this bridge. There are people working in the background. Like the river beneath us looks really nice. Like it's awesome. Like it's beautiful. And like even like Drydeck TV, which is he's a newer LOTRO content creator. At least for me watching him, created a video recently that just said LOTRO is breathtaking, and it is. It's a really beautiful game. And so from what I've seen about Cardalin and Swanfleet, they are like crushing it. They are crushing it with like these zones. They just look so good. And so I'm more just genuinely excited to like jump in and play the new zones. I think that the new armor sets look really cool, to be honest with you, even like for like the Ultimate Fan Edition and all that stuff. I think they look great. I'm excited to do the story with Boromir. Like I'm genuinely stoked about all of that. I am excited for the delving system. I'm excited to try it out and all of that stuff. But I'm genuinely like, I think I'm most excited about the new zones. I'm really pumped to see what they did. And mad respect to the LOTRO team, man. With not the biggest team and not the biggest budget, I do think they managed to put together some of the best zones in any MMO, outside of maybe some of the like most insane, budget. I don't know. What do you think?
So yeah, I have actually scenarios, casual stroll throughs, now on Cardalin, just have those playing in the background, and that's something that I also have with LOTRO. I think the world building is amazing, and I am really excited to explore the two new zones. Just like the little preview we have here, just looks like it'll be a fun area to walk around. It looks very open and vast. I mean, these are two huge zones. We can tell that from the maps and I think some things they have said. So that is definitely exciting.
I would agree.
Now, I do have to ask you, since I know you're a little bit limited on time, I should have planned for this to be like a 3 or 4 hour show, but
it's all good. We can do it again sometime.
Yeah, there were a few different things with Before the Shadow, but if there is something let's see. I'm just making sure I'm not missing anything important. Oh yeah, so beta, that's probably a good thing. I'm honestly expecting beta this week. There's been no official information on that, but my guess is that it will be this week based on basically the date that it is. It is October 11th, and Before the Shadow is releasing on November 8th. That's like 4 weeks away.
Oh my gosh.
I think really should have a beta like a month in advance.
Yeah.
So I would hope at least the beta's coming soon. I'm just making sure today's Tuesday, making sure I'm not missing anything on that.
Yeah, well, they've got a big, they do have a big patch tomorrow with the upcoming, what's it called?
33.2.2.
Yeah, well, they're putting out the Harvest Festival, but I'm wondering if the reason that it's such a long downtime is maybe they're going to be introducing the beta into the, maybe not. Maybe they did announce it.
Yeah, usually that's not quite the way it works, but for all I know, all of a sudden tomorrow they could just have the beta up, or maybe it will be a week from now. I kind of forget that it's Tuesday already.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like, wait, there actually hasn't been an announcement yet. Yeah, this maintenance is really long, 5 a.m. to 2 p.m.
I'm just saying they may just want to drop it, man. They've been working the hype lately.
Maybe they could.
Are you going to play beta?
Yes, I usually do. I don't quest in
Cool.
betas though. I don't want to spoil any of that. I just like
Okay. I like
to
it.
run around.
All right.
And if there are any like
I'm
new systems, I mean, the I might try the delvings. I don't know.
yeah.
The I don't know if the 6-man will be in the beta because it's going to be released later.
Oh, okay.
So yeah,
I mean, hey, it could. I'm excited. I'm really. Yeah, I don't want to spoil anything, but I would love to see the new zones. I think it'd be really fun. But I don't want to spoil any of the story. I think that
yeah.
that's going to be a good time. How do you get onto bull just for like everybody and not me? Of course, I
Yeah.
would know
So,
because I'm a pro
oh
LOTRO
yeah,
player. But how do
definitely.
you get onto it?
So that was a good question. I have to remember how. So you go to the forums. So I have a great bookmark for the Lotro forums is the dev tracker. That will have
Yeah.
every developer post. I have it up here. You just go to the forums and then the dev tracker tab. I have a bookmark on this fancy new Chrome profile just for fellowship chat. But
Nice.
yeah, when you get to the forums, we don't have to go to the dev tracker for this. You can find Borer somewhere way down here near the bottom. There's
Oh,
Borer
okay,
public
cool.
test server. And then there is going to be Borer client installer, one of the threads here. And then they
Oh,
have
okay. So that's how you do
PC,
it.
Mac. And for
Perfect.
me, this is actually the icon you see right. Oh, never mind. Not that one. But I have two. They have the same icon, but you basically have the Borer launcher, which just has, for servers, you can select either Borer or Palantir. Palantir being the private
Got it.
alpha server. And
Okay. Well,
yeah,
there
when
you go.
Borer's up, that will, yeah, be up.
Let's play. Let's play, man. I'm excited. I'm really pumped. I mean, but like I said, I mean, I think that the new zones, they make me excited. I'm just pumped for it. I have not been a part of a Lotro expansion release since Moria.
Oh,
So
wow.
I'm
Yeah.
pumped to see what it's like. I really am.
'Cause you came a few months after Gundabad, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I came back with the 15th anniversary. So I'm like excited to see, you know, does it have the
Okay.
typical hype? Are there going to be queue times and all that stuff? I'm pumped to see. We'll see.
Okay. I'll let you be excited to see that. But I'm curious that what do you think of it being called a mini expansion rather than an expansion? Is that
It's a smart.
like
Yeah, I mean it's a smart move on their part.
okay?
I think it's a smart move. It's a weird thing to say like a mini expansion. But I mean I think having if they would have said expansion and not had a raid added, I think people would have been
Oh,
probably pretty ticked
yeah.
or like a level increase. And so I get why they did it. It's a weird thing because like I'm always on Twitter going like, hey, like we're giving away the mini expansion this Thursday. So it's a weird, I've never heard another game call it something a mini expansion, but that's just me. It's a very strange thing to say.
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
know.
Okay. There's again, if you have to go, I know you mentioned it would be 7:30 Eastern.
Let's
That's
do, yeah,
kind
let's do
of
just a couple more minutes.
in
It's all
time.
good.
So this has happened a lot in the past with Lotro, and I know I've mentioned about Before the Shadow specifically here, but what do you think when you see something like Gundabad released with 0 instances? Now, 1 week later, they did have the 2 3-mans, but it was quite a while after that the 6-man and raid was released. So, do you have any thoughts on like all that stuff being released later?
Yeah, so because is Before the Shadow releasing their 6-man later?
Yes, they have not announced the date for that, but if I can pull up the fact again, that is weird.
Oh, it's okay. It's
Add that.
so for so yeah, so I'm trying to think of how to compare this to other games. It would make sense if it was like a very pivotal end game thing, in my opinion. So World of Warcraft releases their raid with the launch, but then they release the mythic version of their raid a couple weeks
Sure.
later. So it gives people time to gear up, learn the fight, all of that stuff. Releasing the expansion and not having the raid right away or not having the instance right away is a little strange because like I would feel like you'd want to capture the hype, you know? Like I feel like you'd want to capture the people with like a and like a lot of people are going to be playing and I want to play the 6-man raid with people on level or the 6-man instance with people on level. I don't know if we're going to get that if it releases 3-4 weeks later. That would be my
Yeah.
only worry. What do you think?
Yeah, that was a similar thing with Gundabad, which of course the instances with that you could run them at the level cap and eventually do the higher tiers at the level cap, but it was something not only with that expansion but previous ones that I missed where I'd be like leveling, going through the quests, and I'd be at the relevant location for the dungeon, and
Yeah.
then it's not out yet, and then I have to run it later. And with the Gundabad, they
Weird.
actually have quests that are like level 134, level 137 ish, somewhere around those for the 2 3-mans. There's probably one for the 6-man now that I also missed, but they actually have quests that weren't in the game, so I had to kind of go back to actually finish my questing experience, which kind of just the flow of that was a little bit weird, I guess.
A little strange. Yeah, I didn't know that.
So-
I didn't know that, so I'm kind of blown away hearing that.
Yeah, so-
that would be frustrating.
That's
You
why
bought
it's
it.
one of my bigger concerns with Before the Shadow. I've talked about a lot because I I don't know.
I think that when you release an expansion from like a marketing and PR perspective, you want to put your best foot forward. And if there are quests that lead to an instance that is not unlocked yet, I think that I just think that MMO players are fickle. We're fickle creatures. There are so many great options out there, and there are free options on our phone at this point, right? That we can play.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that there's only enough eye roll moments that you can have, I think, as an MMO player before you go, okay, I'm just going to go back to this other one. And so my hope is that Before the Shadow doesn't have very many eye roll moments for new and returning players, that they're able to come in, fall in love with the world like I have, and continue to play. I think that's that's what I care about. I want to see the game thrive, and I think it can. But that's just my thought.
Yeah, it definitely can. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it even
I
is
just, I'm a,
to an extent already thriving, but at least
Yeah,
relative to it's in a better state than it was maybe even a couple of years ago.
it definitely is. I mean, and again, it's kind of funny. Like, we can talk about all these things, but at the end of the day, it's a fantastic game. It's really well put together. And I know that there are things that could be good, could be better, could be worse, but at the end of the day, I think it's one of the better MMOs out there to play right now, just because of the world building, because of the story building. And I'm excited to see what happens in Before the Shadow. I think you've asked about the returning player perspective, the newer player perspective. I think, especially as someone who hops around MMOs, the MMO hype is super, super exciting.
Yeah.
MMO hype is always exciting, and to have hype around this game again makes me the most just like giddy, just as a regular player, not as a streamer. I'm excited to see what happens, and so I'm very positive. I have a very positive outlook for Before the Shadow. I hope that it's really good. It might be, it might not be, but I think I'm really, really excited for it.
And I think kind of that baseline stuff, they always, at least with me, LOTRO, it's always like the environment, the immersiveness, the world building, all that stuff is like, I have basically the expectation that will be great. It's just, there are also always these things that I can be a little bit more critical of, and it's typically not the content. Like, the content itself is usually what I really like in LOTRO, which is, to me at least, the most important part.
Yeah, I would totally agree. Okay, man, I probably have time for one more question. I'm getting the dinner summons, but let's do, if you have one more, I can do it.
All right, so totally shifting topics.
Okay.
What do you think? This is a lot, so maybe if you have any brief thoughts on this. It seems kind of weird that 2022 has had a lot of low-level content, including Before the Shadow coming up, and then 2023 is going to have level cap content, but then it's going to have in the fall expansion that raises the level cap right after they're adding this level cap content. So it just seems kind of backwards to me. I didn't know if you had any thoughts on that. Maybe it's not even relevant to you as a lower level. You do have a level cap character, but yeah, just thoughts on that?
I spent the time for it too, man. I boosted and went through sword halls like 20 times. No. So what you're saying is that they're releasing this mini expansion, and then in the new year, they're going to be releasing level cap content, and then they're going to release a level, like a level rise kind of a thing. Like, it's going to go to 150.
The fall expansion next year.
Yeah, yeah. Um, if I were them, just again thinking about the state of the game, I'm such a nerd on like the overall, like thinking about the players and stuff like that and like how the
Hmm.
game feels. I would want them to, I guess if I was running it, I would say release the Before the Shadow expansion, let people have fun with it, but I would start teasing the next expansion and like what things are going to be very quickly because I would want them to level up to level cap so that they could experience it
Oh,
in
yep,
the
yep.
fall.
They actually have
That's what
teased a little bit, but
Yeah, they definitely have. I mean, and I think that with these Q&As, it's going to be very, very essential to kind of go like, so what is this smell of salt water that we've been looking for? You know,
yeah.
like what is that going to be? And I think that being able to tease that is going to be really important because I think that the biggest struggle that they're going to have is when they get into the new year. Will players stick around after they do the level 30 experience? You know, like will they
Hmm.
keep going? And I think that they can motivate players to keep going by going, hey, so in the fall, we're gonna have the biggest expansion ever. Like, and
Hmm.
if I'm them, dude, and I know this sounds silly, if the one thing that I would say would keep players there is if they could make the Rift Raid scalable, I think they would do it. I think that if you could make the Rift Raid scalable to end level cap, in my opinion, if you because I think it's such a hyped raid and so many people have loved it from a long time ago, that would be my only big move in spring would be to go like, hey, the Rift of Nurzgazu is now going to be up to level 140, and you can get tier level raid gear from that. I think you keep all the players that are coming back from nostalgia, myself included. So, if a dev is watching, oh my gosh, that would be awesome. Like, can you imagine? Because going back to just being able to go back to the Rift and then, get the shining emerald and like the super diamond from the Balrog and like actually kit out and raid gear
Yeah.
that works at level 140. That would be killer. That would be my thing.
Oh, yeah. They actually do have some raids like that. Like Helagrods
Yeah.
can scale, but I think the big thing is the reward system, like actually
That'd be so
making it
cool.
relevant for whatever the new level cap is. I think it's something they could definitely use is like actually making older content, like bringing it up to date to
Yeah.
make it so people run that, like the Rift. It'd be fun.
I I would totally agree, man. I would totally agree. Dude, I'm so sorry that I have to run. It's the timing thing, man. I'm so sorry. But man, this has been so much
Yeah,
fun. I really appreciate it.
yeah. Thank you for joining. I'll try to plan better in the future.
Oh, please.
Have
It's my
this
fault.
maybe either start earlier or lower the topics down a little bit, but
No, no, no. And you know what? We'll start earlier and I'll do less rambling in the future if you have me on
I
again.
mean, rambling can be good. Leads to interesting conversations. I ramble all the time, so it's no problem.
Well, Louis, I
Makes it fun.
appreciate you, man. And man, let's keep in touch, dude. You're awesome. And my chat says hey, and that they want you to stream on Twitch. Sorry,
Great.
YouTube chat. They want Louis to stream on Twitch.
Oh,
Come be the king over here.
I'll never say never.
All right, come on, baby. Come on. I'll be here for your first one. Okay, man. Well, I'll talk to you soon, man. Thank you.
Great. Yep. Thanks. See you.
Later.
Oh wow, this looks weird. Okay, we'll get this fixed up hopefully. So I going to that probably looks even weirder. All right, so we are going to stop that, exit this, and I believe I'd have to restart OBS, but maybe not to get my video back up. So this is, oh, yes, no, maybe. Did that work? Oh, wow, it worked. I actually somewhat know how to work OBS now. So yes, this new show, it's about wrap-up time for it, I suppose. But I hope you all really enjoyed the format. I know this is something I mentioned. We had to keep the topics going, at least to get to the list I had. And maybe in the future, I think slow things down could actually be a good thing. We got to chat a little bit, but maybe have chat a little bit more involved. There were a few topics and a few people that I wasn't quite able to shout out, like Skate Zombie actually earlier had that legendary items point that reminded me about that and all of that. So yeah, let me know what you all think of the show. Also, in the future, doesn't necessarily have to be just Brightlife and me. There are other people that can get involved. I'd like at some point, maybe to even get viewers involved in the show and join in. Can be more than 2 people at once. A fellowship, I believe, can be up to 6 players. So having something like that could be neat with the show. As far as some wrap-up thoughts, if y'all are curious, just some other topics that we did not quite get to talk about and more of the formatting. I know things kind of went all over the place, which is great. But yeah, we talked about, we did not get with the new player experience, like the pace and difficulty of combat. So one of the things we did last time I played with Brightlife is we played on the Deadly +6 max difficulty on one of the legendary servers. And that was pretty fun experience, but from a new player, I was kind of curious what the... Yeah, it could even have a developer on here. That would be very interesting. Dr. Cups. That must have been some in-game sound. But yeah, having more people would be nice. So I might try to set up my Discord server to have people, I don't know, it'd be so awkward to me to have you have to like apply to join the show, but maybe something like that where people that are actually interested in joining the show, a place for them to go. This helmet is awful, but yeah, have a place for them to go if they are interested in that. If anybody in chat wants to mention if they are interested in that, please feel free to. And then, yeah, that was another thing. Let's say some other things that we did not get to. We talked about how you have different options for while you level. Brightlife, again, thank you for joining. It was a blast. Just going over the topics now that we missed somewhat briefly. Hello, Voltarn from Brightlife's Twitch. Nice to see at least somebody made it over. So yeah, then we went into Before the Shadow, talked about if they are revamping the new player experience, which maybe they aren't necessarily revamping the new player experience because they still recommend the other zones. Wow, at least 2 people from Brightlife's chat with. I am very bad with names. Elves Are Us. I'm guessing that's what that's supposed to be. The thing with new players is it'd be hard to recruit like actually brand new players, but that could be a possibility. There we go, we got 4 people. I'm going to keep counting. 4 people from Brightlife's chat here. Douglas and the Blade Renewed are the 2 new ones. Anyway, let's get going on. So yeah, we did not talk about... This was going to be a whole bigger thing, so I didn't quite want to open it up at the end, but what... Ooh, do I still have this? I do not. Okay, so you all have it without my face, which maybe isn't a bad thing. So we're going to do some magic OBS work in the middle of this. Can't forget the cat. Okay, let's go something like that. There we go. Oh, that's a little bit big. I'm not calling her fat, but the visual there was a little bit big. Okay, so we got cat. That's just fun doing it live. Oh, that's the wrong thing. Let's get... Y'all might notice while I have this up that I have changed some things about the background. So very interestingly, I have had 2 cat trees basically the entire time since I moved here, thanks to Chewy sending me 2 cat trees instead of 1. The reason I have not had 2 cat trees up, there's one like behind me right there. The reason I have not had that one up is because there wasn't really quite a spot for it, but I moved things around, reorganized this weekend, and now I actually have 2 up. We'll see how they actually use both, but I was also thinking about giving it to somebody, but just kept it. But there we go. We have... Oh man, this is a horrible way to phrase it, but we've replaced Brightlife. And yes, this cat, she has been grooming herself crazy in the past like hour or something. It's a decent cat tree. It's a little bit small. It might be hard to tell that, but it is, I'd call it nice quality. It's just small. The thing with cat trees is it's probably particular for the cat. the type of cat tree that they like and that sort of thing. And I mean, there are so many things with that, but I'll drop it there. That is a whole playground. I would love to have a whole bunch of cat shelves up in this apartment, but they don't like holes on the wall, so avoiding that. That is something that I can look into way in the future. Yes, the difficulty setting is exclusive to Legendary servers. So unfortunately, don't quite have access to that. Oh wow, part Maine Coon, 18-pound cat. Yeah, it could be hard to find a cat tree, at least in my perspective, a reasonably priced one for that. Yeah, for a larger cat. Piper she's like 11-ish pounds. She's got a decent bit of fluff. So she's not like way overweight, but she's like medium-sized cat, I suppose. Talk about cats more. I mean, I could talk about cats more. Leather cat is nowhere to be seen. I don't know if I'm actually curious where she is, but yep. Probably on the couch if I had to guess, which is something I can't quite see that yet. Nope. It's still a little bit of a mess, like behind me. It's still a little bit of a mess back there, but it's okay. 30-pound cat? That is crazy. I can't even imagine a 30-pound cat. So other topics other than cats. Cats are okay. Y'all can keep chatting about cats, but just to get back a little bit to the point, yes, it was about the different bundles that we have with Before the Shadow. So something I was going to ask Brightlife about, one is which edition he got or if he's going to get, but then I decided to check my email, and something you all might know with previous expansions, I think starting with War of the Three Peaks, if I remember correctly, is that, let's see, this is something I need to change the camera for real quick, and now I can go back. In previous expansions, content creators got a code for the Ultimate Fan Bundle provided by Standing Stone Games, and when they announced Before the Shadow and actually had it live on the LOTRO market, that did not happen. Well, it turns out a week ago at this point, so this still wasn't that long ago, but it was a week ago. I did get sent an Ultimate Fan Bundle code, so I will probably apply that, might do a video. If I had already bought the expansion, I'd probably just give it away, but because I am cheap, I will go ahead and take that and use it. But yeah, that is something I was going to bring up with Brightlife, just his opinion on that, content creators getting something like that and all that. So yeah, I've tried to be, hopefully it was clear with the previous ones, I've tried to be open about this, that we did get that provided by Standing Stone Games to make content, and they've said as a thank you for making content, all that sort of stuff. But it was something I was going to bring up, his perspective on that, because I think it's a good thing, but I also feel like it can also be, maybe from y'all's perspective, kind of sucky to see that. I don't know. So yeah, leading into that, this was before I actually saw the email. With that, I was going to talk about like which edition I would buy. So to be completely honest with y'all, I would have only bought the standard edition. And for me, the collector's edition just doesn't have much that makes it worth it over the standard edition. I would either get the Ultimate Fan Bundle or the standard edition. I think the biggest problem with Before the Shadow, if I had to like point out a problem, would be the collector's edition. Just not quite seeming worth it. There's just not much value in it to me. It's like the big, very exclusive things are the stones here. The Stone of the Tortoise, I don't know if I can stop hiccuping, the non-tortoise stone. But those are in the Ultimate Fan Bundle. And then you don't even get the shared storage in the collector's edition. You do get an additional character slot. You do get improved expedition supplies, but from my perspective, that's not really worth it for the collector's edition. You do get the Dunedain armor, and then a couple extra cosmetics, but is that really worth it for $40 more than the standard? And if you're wanting to spend more money that you would ultimately be spending on cosmetics, really, would it be better to just go ahead and go with the Ultimate Fan Bundle? And yeah, if you wait long enough, they would potentially actually give it away for free. And two, you can actually buy it in the LOTRO store so many months afterwards. So if you're not interested in this, like playing it right away and can wait, you could play it something like a year later and buy it from the LOTRO store even. Ali, hey, you said what I do benefits LOTRO a lot. Yeah, I definitely think videos, not even just what I necessarily do, but content creators, people who make videos, even as much as I don't watch don't watch Twitch, and I'm not the biggest person into that, it is technically helpful to the game to have people streaming it and making videos for it and all that sort of stuff. Date for LOTRO stores in March. I don't remember actually reading that, but it's probably, I could even see it being in the FAQ somewhere. Let's see if March. Yeah, March 2023. Good call there. So it's actually not even that long. I think Gundabad was May. So before the shadow will be 1995 LOTRO points in March 2023. Which is, if you were to buy LOTRO points from the LOTRO store, it might be roughly $20 if you equate 100 LOTRO points as $1. That'd be very rough mark. I know there are different LOTRO point bundles and all that sort of stuff that can change it, but yeah, if you consider that $20, it's the same cost. You don't get, I don't even know if you get anything with the standard edition. You get an elf dance emote, so you would miss out on that emote, but LOTRO points you can earn in game, and there are a whole bunch of things with that. If you're VIP, you get 500 monthly LOTRO points, so all that stuff going with it. Let's see, other topics. Oh yeah, so that was something that just in general wanted to get to, but didn't have time to quite get into. And Bella, you actually bring up a good point. Something I have seen, I've seen it on the LOTRO forums, I know. Let's see, one of these is LOTRO forums. I probably can't find the exact thread anymore, but people were talking about how content creators can get codes to actually give away, like LOTRO point codes, and some people have codes to give away the expansion and all these sort of things. Like, they have the ability to give people codes to give away. So a question that I saw came up on the LOTRO forums, and I don't remember if a developer responded or what happened with that, if it was just something I saw and did not get to, never saw a response to. I really don't remember, but maybe it was this one actually. No, it was not that one. Okay. So the question the player brought up, this is the point, the question the player brought up was, why can't they just do that? They can't sell this so people can gift it, whether it's LOTRO point gift cards, that type of thing, or even with the expansion, gift the expansion. So yeah, that is I think that's a good question. It could be logistical reasons. Maybe they don't have whatever systems in place to actually sell these codes, but I'd be very curious. That's why I remember I'd be very curious on a developer response, which again, we do not have at the moment. General Ramu. Ooh, my headphones are loud. Haven't had any audio play in them, so they just turned off. And for some reason, the audio on the Bluetooth thing here is very loud. It, like, plays max volume. But glad you enjoy the LOTRO content. And do I realistically see... When do I realistically see that? I honestly don't know. I don't know if that's something we can expect in 2023. I would hope so. But while I say I would hope 2023, I don't get my hopes all that much. That's why I say I would hope, and not that I do hope. That's a little bit of semantics, but there you go. Oh yeah, bag slots, inventory space. That is a good use for LOTRO points, to be honest. I can switch the camera. Oh, no, I can't. That's why I'm on the screen. I forget that I don't have this quite fully set up. Here's the game. Brawler got any love at endgame? They did get a tanking buff. But I'll probably take, if anybody else has any questions, whether it's related to the show or not, probably get to a couple other of those. I don't really have much of anything to do in game, so there's not too much like gameplay reason for me to stay. And maybe while waiting to see if anybody has anything else, I will say you might have noticed I have not actually streamed in, I think it's 2 weeks to the day, which is really crazy. I've just been a bit busy, got behind on a big few things, and a few things related to YouTube, not other stuff. Otherwise, that would have been really bad. And yeah, just been a bit extra busy. That's kind of the way things go with me. So I think this week, let's see, this week, tomorrow, I know is not a great day. I was hoping to have, probably not a video tomorrow, but hoping to have a video Thursday and then maybe could stream Friday. I potentially could do a Friday morning stream. I'll have to see how things go with that. Just something to test out. So that is something to potentially look forward to. I'll see how things might work out with that though. And I should have a video coming up about this LOTRO remastered. I don't quite know the exact format of the video, but maybe I'll have more thoughts on the, not just the 4K UI update, but more specifically what LOTRO remastered, what I expect it to look like. The big question is, with LOTRO remastered, is how something like this will look. Like, will this exact bridge that I'm standing on and all that I see here, will it look significantly different? And what about it will look different? And when I hear the word remastered, I would expect a pretty big improvement to the visuals to happen like all at once they release this LOTRO remaster, then all of a sudden the game will look better. That is not what I expect to happen with LOTRO though. The developers have talked about it being like small iterative updates over time. I don't know if the user interface will be like small iterative updates with that, or if they are expecting to release a bigger overhaul of the UI as one update, or if they're even actually going to do it. Because it has been a long while since they very first mentioned it. I don't know if whatever resources they may or may not be getting from EG7, if that will help or if it won't. There's a whole lot of unknown there, unfortunately. Oh, and get more people into the game. Oh, a way to get here. I'm actually going to. This is something I did earlier, and might as well fill the thing with something relevant. Okay, this looks good enough, and that's what we strive for here. Good enough. You can barely see. Oh, I got rid of it. Barely see my character. I think it's this one. There we go. And now we can see chat. So Nico, what you were saying though is IRL Lord of the Rings events to affiliate with LOTRO. That I think could be a great thing. I'm not all too familiar, don't know what the Weta Workshop is to be honest, but not too familiar with what IRL Lord of the Rings events there are and how many people that could get, but I think that is a good point, just the general concept of Lord of the Rings events and affiliate that with LOTRO. Could be a great thing that might require some work from the developers, but something that could be manageable, I think. Even having I know they occasionally have this, and it's really hard for Standing Stone games, but having actual IRL events for LOTRO players or whatever to gather up to would be nice as well. But I think, oh, they're the ones that make the Lord of the Rings movie in New Zealand. That's where the Hobbiton connection comes in. Okay. And I think on that note, I will go ahead and get things wrapped up here. So again, just very final reminder, if you have any feedback with the Fellowship Chat, that is the name of this new series. It will probably be, I didn't get to all my notes on this, but it'll probably be semi-regular at best. And it's something that just whenever there's a good topic to come up with, whether it's monthly, twice a month, every other month, whatever with that, it's something that I hope to keep up with. And again, if any viewers are interested, or if you know any content creators you might want to see join in, I can reach out to, or you can reach out to them if you really want them to join. Please do let me know on that. Also with the feedback. Again, there are so many things going on with the new show, but so I don't repeat myself all too much, I'll go ahead and get wrapped up with things here. And on the final note, I hope you all enjoyed this, and yeah, potentially learn something about LOTRO. Hope you enjoyed having Brightlife here and having the more fellowship discussion oriented part of this show. And if you did, please consider liking and subscribing for more, or becoming a channel member to support the content, and also checking Brightlife out. I have his YouTube channel linked in the description, and also he streams a lot on Twitch. And finally, thanks for joining, chatting, and watching, everyone.